so that's not when you stop playing, that's when you start playing.
Tidwillow, Tidwillow.
Tidwillow. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to the fun show here at BATV. The gentleman behind the keyboard is Mike Sallin.
Unfortunately for you out there.
We sat here for about 15 minutes while Mike tried to choose a song and practiced a number of various songs.
I'm glad you said practice.
And then when I asked him to play, he played a song that he had not played at all in the practice. This is our usual method of selecting
great music.
the musical accoutrements of our show.
Yes.
And today we do it with no sense of shame because we have joining us this week Rick Weiner. Rick happens to be a rabbi, and Rick's friend Mazel, who is joining us here.
Who's a hearing.
And
Hearing
Rick
aid
is
dog.
also a graduate of the
Well, I attend the Boston Conservatory. of
Boston
Music.
Conservatory of Music, and he sat there without a grimace and listened to us play with the music. I, as usual, am Arch O'Reilly. I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. So we welcome you once more on the eve of Halloween.
Yes.
Yes, we do. And Mazel's settling right in, head on the table, be all set. So Rick hasn't left yet. He's still here.
He's still here.
I'm in for the duration.
For the duration, the whole half hour.
The whole
right?
half
Take
hour.
it or not, right? It would be set on things.
I would like to. I'd like to know who. First of all, we can't upstage that player on the Red Sox, Gomes, from last night. Was it last night? He hit that home run in the.
I don't know. It was the seventh inning or something, or the sixth or something.
Yeah.
I don't know because I haven't been watching this because I continue to be unable to get interested in the Boston House of David. Now, Rick could play for the House of
He
David.
could play
but
for the
I-
house.
I
He
couldn't
could play for the.
Just give me a ball.
Yeah, hand him the ball.
Hand him the ball. Okay.
It is interesting. I haven't watched the games, but it is interesting that the last two games have ended in ways that have never previously ended in the history of the World Series.
They're really weird.
The Game 3 ended on a temporarily controversial obstruction call, which has never ended a game before. And then last night, in a totally improbable pickoff at first base to end the game.
End the game.
They
yeah.
put in a pinch runner, and they apparently forgot to tell him we're down by 2, so we don't need you to steal. And he gets himself picked off, and their biggest hitter, Carlos Beltran, is at the plate, and he just stood there. Did you see the look he gave the guy? He's up at the plate. If he'd hit a home run, he'd have tied the game, and the kid gets himself picked off at first, and Beltran just sort of looked at him and put the bat down and kept looking at him.
It's really like Halloween came early or something, you know.
I don't think that kid was allowed to take a shower after that.
They killed him.
It was.
Anyways.
Anyway, it's 2-2 again, which is what it was in the last round. And
Tom Brady's right hand is puffy.
yeah, which is a good segue from the Red Sox. Red Sox in 6. Red Sox in 6.
Red Sox at 6.
Right. This is the fourth time the Red Sox have played the Cardinals, and which is interesting because that's the most of any two teams have matched up in the World Series not named the Yankees.
Trivia.
That's
important.
That's what I know. That's why my head's so big.
Oh. Well, I wouldn't
Stuff
say
from
that.
trivia.
But you got nice hair.
Anyway, yes, Tom Brady looked absolutely terrible in the first half, worse
The
than
second
ever.
half,
And they still managed to win the game.
I count.
I don't know what
How
it
or
is.
why?
Right. They have no defense. They have Brady's playing terribly, and they continue to win.
What is it?
It's It's either the ultimate bookie somewhere or someone up there likes them.
I think somebody up there likes them.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
God
and then
does like them.
and then how about the end of that game? That game ends. That game ends with the Miami Center being served a subpoena in the Hernandez case.
The Hernandez case.
Did
Yeah.
you hear that? They
No, I
actually
didn't
went in
hear
the
about
locker
that.
room and issued a subpoena
Yeah.
for the Miami Center.
I have a captive audience.
Well, yes, yes.
You think he has the gun hidden in his locker? I hope not.
Well, clearly he didn't have the gun hidden in his locker. There's some rumor that it has something to do with whether he might know where the gun is.
I tune on. I hate to bring this up to you guys, but I tune on the TV for news and stuff, and there's a name that I always see on one of these stations, Anthony Bourdain. Who is he?
I have no idea.
They keep telling me, and he's doing all kinds of travelogues, and I don't know anything about him. Why is he doing these things?
Well, I have no idea, but I must say that I don't recognize 3/4 of the names I hear on TV today.
Okay. All right.
Particularly if I turn on or flip past that wonderful thing called TMZ.
Okay. Cheney said Snowden is a traitor.
They're still quoting Cheney?
Yeah, he came out with a new book that was today called Heart.
Heart?
Yeah, it describes his 5 heart attacks.
Does it explain why anybody would waste a perfectly good heart on Dick Cheney?
Because he's a multimillionaire and has a great big 8,000-acre ranch.
Yeah,
or
they
something.
keep like
And his daughter is running for Senate.
they keep liking to claim that we have a national registry for donated organs that make sure that they go to the people who need them the most. And all Dick Cheney proves is that you can still buy them.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Wouldn't it be funny, though, if you found out that Dick Cheney had a Chinese heart?
Yeah. Well,
Right? I mean, don't you suspect that that's the place where you can most easily buy them?
Yeah, but I think.
Maybe.
I think that would be great.
Well,
Ted Cruz is not a citizen, and Dick Cheney has a Chinese heart.
okay. Well, he was
Wonderful state,
he was
Texas.
ve-
We
he
owe
was
them
very,
so much.
He was very anti-gay, and then his daughter came out.
Yeah.
I think.
And now that
changed.
he's not running for anything, he's no longer terribly anti-gay.
Good. I think that's very good. And what do you think of the president? He's and this business about the website collapsing and all that.
It just proves that the government is no different than any other business. They don't check it. They didn't go through it, and it didn't make it.
Good. That's a
And also, if they'd given the contract to an American company, they might have been better off.
yeah. Google could
Good
have done
point.
it. Google or Amazon, they would have known what to do.
They gave it to CGI, which is a Canadian company.
Yeah.
However,
They were afraid.
if they'd given it to a Texas company, it probably wouldn't have worked at all. However,
okay.
they just said, here's another way to sabotage Obamacare.
Well, it just take longer and longer and longer before anything got done.
They'd collect all the information and nothing would ever come back.
A federal district court declared a part of that Texas abortion law unconstitutional today.
Good.
Yeah, I thought it was very good. You know, the doctor has to. he
The
has to
thing
be
is,
at
among
least-
other things, you have to have admitting privileges at a local hospital.
At least 30 miles he has to.
Right, and the fact of the matter is, there's plenty of places in Texas where there isn't a hospital within 30 miles.
Yeah, well, that's.
As a matter of fact, there are places in Massachusetts where there isn't a hospital within 30 miles. You know, I don't think there's a hospital within 30 miles of Coleraine.
Anyways.
I don't know.
Don't have Google Maps in your
I
head,
suppose I
Rick?
could. I mean, if you give me a chance to get to the computer.
Well, I
Oh,
know.
you mean you don't have one of those computers in the pockets, iPhones or whatever?
I do.
It's very funny. People are walking around with more computing power in their pocket than the room-sized machine I got my first job programming 50 years ago.
I think I'm going to stop talking about casinos in the future.
You are, but casinos are very interesting now. we have an election that Menino now was looking desperately to get out of. We have our friends up at Suffolk Downs who had to get rid of their
You went to that meeting.
their majority partner because it turned out that they were associated with the Irish mafia. I mean, not the Irish
Russian,
mafia,
Russian.
the Russian mafia. And so now they're facing an election, the people of East Boston and Revere voting on whether they should have a casino when they don't have the financing and they don't know. They'd be giving them a blank check for what partner that would come in. And of course, the head of Caesars complained that Massachusetts regulations were too strict. What do you mean you object to my being in bed with the Russian mafia? I don't understand.
Well, they got Springfield has a similar problem.
But here's the funny thing. They, for example, they are now spending a second allocation of $1 million to study the traffic implications of the tech zone in South Boston, and they have not spent $1 to study the traffic on Route 1A in East Boston.
You know.
And you can't drive past Suffolk Downs now. You know?
During rush hour, no.
And in their revenue estimate to the state, they claim that 40,000 people a day are going to come to their place.
That's what they say. I hope they're wrong. Well, we'll see.
Well, they'll get there on their way to the pawn shop.
Yes, right, right. Rick is referring to the fact that the only businesses in Atlantic City that actually increased in number after casinos came to Atlantic City were pawn shops. 27 local.
Maybe porn shops too. I don't know.
That's
Porn.
possible. No, they didn't go up.
No, okay.
They can't compete with the shows in the casinos either.
Okay.
You know?
Then I was reading about Michael Skakel.
Michael Skakel's getting a new
He's
trial.
in the news. He's getting another trial.
He's getting a new trial, and it's very, very likely that they really won't be able to present a case this time around.
I don't think
And if
so.
you'll remember way back in the archives,
Way back.
I always told you that Michael Skakel was not guilty to begin with.
You did say so.
So that I am actually, I may be the only person not named
Well,
Skakel.
Kevin agreed with you
Yeah.
in those days.
Yeah, I may be the only person in the world not named Skakel who's glad that Michael Skakel is getting a new trial.
I don't know if I like that. That's kind of nasty.
What, that is?
Yeah, well,
My presumption that nobody else is happy?
yeah, well,
Well, the problem is that I think we have a predilection in this country to want to accept the judgments of courts, unless, of course, the court says somebody's not guilty who we think is guilty, right? I mean, the population doesn't accept the Simpson trial. They don't accept the one down in Florida recently with a security guard.
Wait a minute. You think O.J. was guilty?
good for you. Okay.
What do you think, Muzzle?
Yeah, Muzzle says no.
Actually, I never did think O.J. was
Do
guilty.
you know they're having state computer hearings also on the trouble for the Deloitte consulting executives?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
This is hearing on computers or hearing
yeah,
by computer?
$46 million system for dealing with unemployment benefits, and it's
What
brought-
happened to Tooch?
they-
It used to be Deloitte Tooch.
That's well, I don't Tooch.
Now it's just Deloitte.
Well, it's us. It's not Tooch anymore. I don't know.
That's like Merrill Lynch, Pierce, Fenner, and Bean.
Okay.
That was the original name of the company. And then
Yes.
Bean died, and they
I like-
promoted Smith. And then they incorporated, and Smith quickly died, and the name never changed.
I like
I always just felt bad for Mr. Bean.
Touche. Touche is.
We'll let him know.
Was it Touche originally? Do you think?
Touche,
Could have been. Touche.
accent aigu.
Yeah. Could have been. All right. He won't get into that.
Oh, you had something there,
I
Rex.
did, but I decided to keep it a good thing.
All right.
Decided
Come on.
Not to add it in. Oh, you think it's time? All right.
Look.
Ladies and gentlemen, and Rick, it is now time for the BATV Unrehearsed Thespian
and
Society's
Mazel.
president. And Mazel has no
Mazel.
lines. We'll see.
We need a lot of people listening in. on
Mazel
this.
is a hearing dog, not a speaking dog.
But Muzzle
baby.
listens. Okay. All right.
Anyway, it's time for our presentation for this week from deep in the archives. We are bringing you
Way down.
a classic by the name of Quandary. Action.
Did you see that protest march in New York?
It was on TV news.
Bunch of weirdos.
Most look quite respectable.
A boiling hot day, though.
Oh, come on. They were all carrying peace signs and anti-war signs.
Fine with me.
Better than apathy.
Ha! Bunch of sleepwalkers.
Might get some folks to vote.
Yeah, it's easier to just make excuses.
Even nasty attack ads fade.
I don't buy that.
Nah, remember swift boats, fast boats.
Slow boat to oblivion.
George's father was a World War II naval flyer.
Now, he was the real thing.
And Bill ducked Vietnam.
But George's dad didn't push the hero thing.
Yeah, there was no naval pilots for truth.
George H.W. was a two-term VP under Reagan.
Head of the CIA, too.
Yeah. Wasn't he the guy who threw up on the premier of Japan?
Yeah. Smelly. Bill was apologizing for Arkansas girly affairs.
On TV with Hillary at his side.
Oh, the Democrats weren't gloating.
And they debated the issues.
Dad came across as an aristocrat.
He was in Ronnie's shadow for 8 years.
Didn't inspire confidence.
Yeah. It's yours.
I can't eat apples anymore.
And my cat hates the smell of orange peels.
It's important for the voting public.
You're impugning Bush's veracity.
What's that, a misdemeanor?
Probably.
Deception, is that what you think?
Yes.
He's tough, Mike.
Next, it's conspiracy.
Clinton misled us on Monica,
Oh, come on, Rick, that's old hat.
but Starr spent years investigating it.
Yep.
Except here, Tenet says it's his fault.
MacArthur should have prepared for North Korea's attack.
Don't you remember he was busy governing Japan?
And doing a pretty good job, I think.
He should have known.
Yeah. So that's it, huh? Finally.
So it's all about oil, huh?
A Muslim terrorism.
And the Oklahoma City bombing?
Nichols and his executed buddy, homegrown.
But this is not 2004.
Bush and Kerry will be debating soon.
Will it make a difference?
Well, maybe people made up their minds already.
I don't care.
Koch says the Democrats won't stand up to Democrats, to the terrorists.
Same thing.
The former mayor of New York.
Yeah. You know what? He's a Benedict Arnold.
Not nice.
History can be funny.
Yeah. Everybody sees the future.
Especially Henry Kissinger.
If you can understand his message.
It's not easy with his accent and all that rhetoric.
William Clark knew, but nobody listened.
And Condoleezza wrote long memos to George.
McCain was cut up in Carolina.
Rumsfeld was busy cutting the military.
Saddam was cutting out WMDs.
The UN listened to Secretary of State Powell.
Well, Prime Minister Blair liked what he heard.
France and Germany didn't.
So, naturally, we attacked Iraq.
Preemptives don't take very long.
Then their army and their police were both disbanded.
And the looting began.
Dramatic TV coverage.
Remember the toppling of Saddam's statue?
What about Senator Kerry in all of this?
He was doing what a senator does, deliberate.
But Senator Kennedy was still making headlines.
What about the Texas Air National Guard?
Do they still have reunions?
Like the Swift boat vets.
You guys.
Well, it's America.
And patriotism is not an ideology.
But it's good for our country.
Wave that flag.
Sing the national anthem at the big games.
We're free to disagree.
Tough decisions, though.
Waiting until you get in the voting booth?
But at least get there.
All of those people outside with their placards.
To help you decide.
You're a citizen. You identify yourself.
They hand you a ballot.
So what's the answer?
Well, I still like parades.
Blackout.
That was a stirring play, and we put Mosul to sleep.
That's about it. Well, he likes this stuff, though. He might be on the show another week. I'll bring some.
Maybe.
I'll bring some cans of food for him. He might be interested. I don't know. You know, this is President Kennedy's 50th anniversary from the
Not his-
assassination.
yeah, thank you for adding that on.
Yeah.
His 50th anniversary of being shot in the head. I'm not sure that's exactly. the way
Yeah,
to put it.
you know, Lee Oswald you know, there are over 40,000 books I saw in the paper that have been written about Kennedy.
40,000 books. Just think of the wasted forests.
Well, I don't know.
Well, today it's all on Kindle.
Yeah, right.
It's all on.
I wonder, is every book ever written available on Kindle?
Not every book, but a lot are.
How many of those 40,000 do you think they bothered to make available digitally?
The ones people will buy.
I guess, but I mean, how many, just off the top of your head, with no basis except instinct, do you think of those 40,000 books on Kennedy conspiracy are still of any interest at all today?
Not
10, 12?
if that,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, Harvard is going to be pushing there for a big. What do they call it? A new campus there in Alston.
The Alston campus, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, incidentally, you know that housing project on the corner, catty corner from the stadium
Yeah.
down there?
Right.
It's totally empty now. The people have all been moved out.
they're gonna pull-
No, they've moved to that really nice new development that they built down where the Super Kmart used to be.
Well, that's all
What's
right.
called Brighton Mills.
It's beautiful.
And they built a really nice development there, and they moved all those people out.
That's terrific.
So that low-income housing project on the corner there was always a terrible place.
I know.
It was very poorly constructed, very poorly designed, and et cetera.
I went in there a couple of times.
But I think you can't really complain about the development plan that says we're going to build a nice new community for you and move everybody there. Which is what they did. It's interesting, they must not have been able to get title to the part of the parcel that has the Shaw's Market and the McDonald's on it, because those are still
the
there.
Boston Development Association and the mayor went along with it. They signed up.
Do you happen to be speaking of the Boston Redevelopment Authority?
Yes. I don't want to even. They don't deserve to have their name.
Remember, Mike, when the head of the Boston Redevelopment Authority was like the most important person in Boston?
Boston, right.
When it was like Ed King and Ed Logue
Right.
and people like that.
Okay.
They did a lot of good back then.
Can we even name the head of the BRA these days?
I can't.
I can't.
But
I don't know who it is.
I don't know who
Maybe
it
if I had my smartphone, I could figure it out.
But he's retiring.
You want to use mine?
I don't know how.
Neither do I, and neither kid.
But he's retiring soon.
We don't know who he is, but he's retiring soon.
Right.
Okay.
He's retiring soon.
As is the police chief, right?
Yeah.
Or the police
Do
superintendent.
you think Angela Merkel, is that her name, the
Angela
Chancellor
Merkel?
of Germany, you think she's smiling these days?
No, I don't think she's smiling, and frankly, I don't think any of our allies are smiling.
What do you think of that mess?
I think they only tell us what they want us to know.
I think you're right.
But it is quite clear. I know that I gleefully spend most of my time here slamming the Republicans, but it is very, very clear that the NSA is out of control, unsupervised, rogue agency, and that it's really quite important.
You know that they're not out of control.
No, they're out of control, but maybe we have a different definition of out of control.
Yes, there is.
But
Totally out of control.
But
Well, what I'm getting at is the Chinese had a policy of not doing things that they're supposed to do. 2,500 years ago, they had such a policy. One of their generals,
But that's when you were very young, Mike.
Ooh, daggers.
Okay, thank you kindly. All right, well, I'll
See,
give
I
the-
can't debate history
I
with
ma-
Mike
I-
because he was there.
I maintain.
I kind of got that.
I maintain that you can look away but know what's going on. That's what I'm saying.
No, I'm not saying that they're not being directed or something, but what I'm saying is that the policy is out of control. We shouldn't be doing those things. and they're no different and no better than making up weapons of mass destruction as an excuse to invade Iraq.
Have you been to the
Wait a
New
second, wait a
York
second.
Metropolitan
Michael,
Museum?
Let Rick say something,
No,
will you?
what I was going to respond to is there have been so many men and women in our military who gave up their lives so that our freedoms could be maintained, and part of it is what you say, that the NSA should not be out of control.
Right, of course, of course. Our freedoms were protected by generations of people, and it is interesting, however, that in just in the last 22 years, more people have been killed by gun violence in the United States than in all our wars in our history, going back to King Philip's War in 1675.
He has relatives from all
But-
these.
but,
different- he does.
But the thing is that they defended what America was and what America's freedoms and aspirations were, and we've been handing them away on our own volition ever since 9/11 with both hands.
Exactly.
All right. So, are you happy with Henry now owning the Globe?
I'm not sure it makes any difference to me, but it is interesting. Now
What
I'm
do you
wondering.
think about it, Rick?
Well, with what I was reading about it, it sounds like he bought the Globe to preserve the honor of the Globe.
That's
now-
what it says there. yeah.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then it'd be a
What-
great asset.
what do you-
The Brookline Globe. I'm just. You remember how the Globe, every time they would write something, and then they'd have to disclose that they were owned by the New York Times, who owned a share of the Red Sox?
Right.
Now, when the Globe writes a story about a Red Sox game, do they have to put a disclaimer saying the Globe is owned by the owner of the Red Sox?
Yeah,
I'm wondering whether that's going to carry over into everything. You know, Red Sox win World Series. By the way, we're owned by John Henry.
He should have bought the umpires. That's all it was.
I feel bad for the Worcester Gazette. I'd like to know what will happen to them.
Oh, which was also owned by the same company.
Yeah.
He
well,
didn't buy that as well.
I don't think so. I think they're going to be off.
So
and
this
up.
leaves the poor New York Times holding the bag on the Worcester Gazette.
It sounds well. Because the New York Times has set aside money for the people who do the deliveries and all that other stuff for the newspaper. They set aside money because
What
they
sort of a bonus for being
well, they-
sold out, or what?
Yeah, well, they don't know what's going to happen to the Gazette.
Oh, the
And they have,
Gazette.
and the
Oh, okay.
people have a union. Anyways, that's what this is about. Okay.
I never thought I would ever give that much thought to the Worcester Gazette.
Yeah, it's all right. It sounds like a
it's-
nice
Rick,
little.
have you
It's
ever read
important.
the Worcester Gazette?
I've never even seen the
I
Worcester
read
Gazette.
it at this VA hospital. I read it.
I'm not surprised. You read the Herald.
And,
I mean, obviously, if you read the Herald, you're compulsive.
well, it's a lively
It's
paper.
easy to read, you know.
You know, I got Howie Carr to read
It's
every
easy to
every other
read, and
day.
it folds up nice in the bottom of the canary cage.
Exactly.
You know, it just fits in there so nice. Oh, we forgot to tell you, we close by singing Good Night, Irene. Michael's wife, Irene.
Night, Irene.
Good night, Irene. Irene, good night. Irene, good night. We'll see you in our dreams. Good night, Irene. Good night, everybody, from the Fun Show at BATV. And as a music lesson, it's the best way to sing Good Night, Irene is to not listen to the accompaniment.
And thanks a lot, Doug.
We'll
did
see you
great.
next week. We thank Rick Weiner for being here and Mossel, who slept through our play, but you're cute.
You are.
Thank you.
Okay, there it is. Another great show for all those people out there.
Another great show. We should be off the air, but we don't know if
well,
we
I
are.
don't know if we.